All right, we're going to get started here. It's a little after 10. Want to welcome everybody to the Digital Forum group today. Uh, this is a group that we have a speaker in the beginning here. We have Jamie Konarski Davidson talking about lens babies this morning, and then we'll go into Q&A after. So we'll get started right away because I know everybody's looking forward to learning a little bit more about lens babies. I'm afraid to learn more about it because I got the feeling I know what I'm buying next. So, Jamie is a Lens Baby ambassador and award-winning freelance outdoor and nature photographer. She has a passion for capturing and sharing the intimate moments and beauty of the natural world. Keep cutting off here. Uh, on its own and as it blends with the rest of the world, her images range from macro and abstracts to intimate, grand, and rural landscapes. She connects with all things old and finds a special beauty in decay and fading cultural lifestyles that resonate a life of hard work. Jamie is enamored with flowers of all kinds. Her interpretive style reflects that love of the blooms along with an intentional approach. Through her company, New Life Photos, Jamie leads photo workshops, teaches, and presents at conferences and other events. Her goals as an instructor are to encourage and inspire people to grow in their photography skills and discover their own visual voice. And you can learn more about her. I know we've put her website up a number of times, newlifephotos.com. We had her on talking about infrared not too long ago, which ended up me buying a Nikon Z6 II and a bunch of filters and all that so I could get into infrared. So we'll see what she does for me today. So we'll turn it over to Jamie. Let's see, replace spotlight. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Well, thanks for the invite again. And I just want to, I guess, start off by saying that I'm a Lens Baby ambassador. If you were interested and you wanted to save some money, 10% off of any purchase, I have at the end a link and a code that you can use. If you have any questions about Lens Baby beyond this program, certainly feel free to email me. And I think aside from that, I'll just share my screen and get started. And I was all ready and I clicked something. So now we'll get back to where you see this from the beginning. There you go. Okay. All right. So this program is Getting Creative with Lens Baby. And for me, Lens Baby is just one more tool in my bag that allows me to create images without the need very often for a lot of extra post-processing. So this, for example, is a Lens Baby shot that it's been a little while, but probably if I had to guess, and some of them I know what I shot with and others I don't, but this would probably be in the Lens Baby Velvet 56 vein. Galen Rowell, if you're familiar with him at all, was a huge landscape photographer and an adventure photographer. I love this quote of his: "At the heart of all photography is an urge to express our deepest personal feelings, to reveal our inner hidden selves, and to unlock the artist." And at least for me, I find that Lens Baby is a great tool to help me unleash that part with, with little effort. I say that maybe you'll see facetiously if you have a Lens Baby, you know that it's not always easy, but the ease of photographing with a Lens Baby, once you've got a handle on it, allows you to do different things much more easily than taking say a macro lens or any other lens and trying to recreate. So just, I'm not going to read all of this, but Lens Baby started in 2004 by Craig Strong, and he launched it at WPPI, and they were actually running out of stock and making more um, in their hotel room. And just from there, so that was wedding photographers who really were just kind of grabbing onto it. I thought that it was 1999 for me when I got my first Lens Baby, but actually it was in the 2005 range. And so my first one was the Lens Baby 2.0. And you can kind of see that there's, a progression just about every year. Something else is released, but that's the beginning of Lens Baby. And so this is what I started with. You would take this, mount it on your camera. This is in the film days, and you would choose your aperture by way of those rings. They would sit inside of the opening. I don't know if can y'all see my mouse?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so you would take these rings, put them in here, and then you would squeeze this in different directions to try to get a certain thing in focus, create a different effect, and to get them out, you would use the magnet that's on the end of here to change them out. So that's kind of where I started, and that was the second iteration of the Lens Baby. This is actually now an older overview of the Lens Babies that I have. So it's definitely labeled some of my collection. Some of it has grown because people have given me things. Others I've just keep accumulating. So this is just part of what I have. If you want to know the truth, I have at least one full roller bag and more overflowing into my regular photography bag and also on a shelf in a cabinet. But this was where I really, the Lens Baby 2.0, that was a good start. But I loved when they came out with the soft focus optic, so the original one. And these two images go that far back, 2005, 2006, whatever. And this is what I was seeing through the lens. So that's what was so beautiful for me, is that I could see the effect right away and go from there. So this is where I just started to fall in love with it. Here's a couple of images of the 2.0, which is where I started. So you would squeeze, as I said, the lens and try to reach an area of focus somewhere. And I will say that Lens Babies, you absolutely can get edges of focus. Sometimes it's easier than others to achieve that focus, but the idea is not to have everything tack sharp. It's a creative, ethereal look that you often see with Lens Babies, and sometimes, very often, it's flowers, but not always. People do portraits and weddings and landscapes even. Here's that soft focus optic. This is what I'm seeing through the viewfinder. So that's just really what grabbed me. I was like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite. And so if I were to pull out a Lens Baby in the early days, this is the one that I would use, because I could get an area of focus, but what happens to the background was unbelievable. These are all in that soft focus optic vein. This too. Now, what I'll talk about it. You'll see some pictures, but I love macro and close-up photography, and my pattern for macro and close-up is, again, not that necessarily always tack sharp, but selective focus and more shallow depth of field. And so Lens Baby has macro filters that you can add to all of their optics. And so these are examples of me adding, and very often I'm stacking the macro filters. Because every one of the Lens Babies, just like all of our lenses, have a minimum focusing distance. And so if I can't get close enough, I'm putting on, either I'm using an extension tube, which is rare, or I'm adding a macro filter or more than one macro filter. So the only thing that I would say is that if you're going to adopt a lens baby and bring it with you and put it on when you're photographing in the Smokies, it might be a good idea if you had a second camera, to have a telephoto lens on. I had the soft focus optic on, and I was saying I'm going to get creative and artsy fartsy in Tremont. Well, that's all well and good, but what if a bear comes? That black blob on the other side of the water there is a bear. And was totally unexpected. And so that's my bear in Tremont. It's the only bear I've ever seen when I've been in the Smokies. And this is it, right? So word to the wise, if I had had a second camera with I didn't then, with my telephoto lens on, I would have gotten the bear too. But add to that story is that there's a fisherman in the water down to the right, and he's right in the path of the bear. So we're yelling. It's about 3 or 4 of us yelling, "Fisherman, fisherman!" And trying to get his attention. And then as soon as we got his attention, we pointed at the bear. He looked and he disappeared. He never came by to say thank you. We never saw him again. But it's just, so that's my little. There are times when maybe you want to have a second camera to capture something other than what a lens baby will provide. When we talk about lens babies or any different type of technique, photography itself is a balancing act. There's the technically correct side where we want to get everything exactly as it is. That's more, for me, that's more of the documentary side. And then we have our creative vision where we have ideas on what we want an image to look like. And we balance that, just because you want to exercise your creative license and vision does not mean that you totally disregard what is technically correct, or what will make your image stronger by paying attention to. For example, if you're photographing an animal or a bug or something, the eye, if the eye is visible, it needs to be sharp. So there are certain things that you don't discount just because you're using a lens baby. For me, where lens baby helps me is when I'm in the balancing act of, well, I'm not seeing anything, I'm not inspired, I could just sit home and just say, forget about it. If I take a lens baby out and I go for a walk, and it doesn't matter which one, go for a walk, all of a sudden I'm seeing the world differently because of the nature of how the lens baby operates and what it allows me to see. So then I become inspired and a lot more motivated to keep going. So that's another thing that lens baby does for me. The other thing is that we often get stuck on, everything being just so and perfect, and this is the way it must be. And particularly, there is the potential, and I will say danger of not photographing because we can't create a perfect image, or not photographing something that we like, that we're interested in, because somebody else won't like it, or judges will, not give it enough kudos and credit and things like that. And I'll tell you, I say this all the time. I photograph for me first. And I realized, thankfully, a long time ago, that perfection is broken. And how I know it is because this is a lens baby shot of an organ that was in an old church, and it actually worked. But I'm reading the names of the keys, and all of a sudden I see perfection. I go, wow, what does that sound like? And the person who was able to play it pulled it, and she said, it's broken. And I was like, thank you. You know, I'll never know what perfection on that organ or any other organ sounds like, but it's freeing when you realize and accept that you don't have to be perfect. My father used to always say, you know, do it right or don't do it at all. Well, that created a level of perfectionism in me. And while I understand now what he meant, he didn't say it. And what he really meant, I think, is do your best. Because if you do your best, there's always room for incremental improvement. So I'm going to show you a lot of images, and I'm not going to talk about every single one, but here's an example of where, you know, perfection is broken. This was done with the Velvet 28, which is more of your wide angle landscape type of scenario. The thing I love about the Velvet 28 is that I can get from here to 2 inches from my subject. And with all or most of the lens babies, you can change your aperture from a very wide open aperture to f16 and get the depth of field and sharpness that you want. So just a few examples. Sometimes I know what I shot, what I used, and other times not. So, you know, my interpretation of this lock, which is really unlocked, right? It's unlocking and giving you the potential to open the door to something different. Ooh, a blank one. So, you know, the rules for Lens Baby, and for me a lot in other ways, is you make your own. So the first thing is I look for a key element. I try to keep my composition simple and my subjects clear. And composition does matter. Just because it's a Lens Baby doesn't mean that you're off the hook in terms of following some composition techniques that will make your images stronger. If you have a Lens Baby that tilts, a little bit goes a long way, and you never know what you're gonna see. A lot of people have a misperception of Lens Baby, but well, it's for flowers. And yes, it is. A lot of flower photographers love it because of the effects, but it's not just for flowers. This is down in Georgia, Old Car City. That's, I think, with I think it's with the Soul 44 in a fish house down on the coast here, fishing nets of a shrimper. And the names of most of what I used are on the bottom. Crab pots, right? Just because it's a Lens Baby doesn't mean it's something. Your eye needs to go somewhere and rest. And so that's the story told in this image, the barnacles. This is the top of a paper umbrella in an antique store. I love going to antique stores, not only because I can find small subjects that I buy and bring home and photograph anyway, but also because you never know what you're going to find and what perspective you can come up with. Also down in White, Georgia, Old Car City with the Sweet 80. All of these, there's not a whole lot of Photoshop or you know, creative post-processing done with any of these. This is what I'm seeing through the viewfinder. So that's the part that I love. In terms of the Lens Baby look, you know, it's unique. It is not for the person who wants everything to look just so. It is totally untraditional. With the suites, I'll go over the various types of looks, but sweet spots are generally circular and they're found in the center. But with the suites, you can tilt them. You can move them and move the sweet spots to different areas. Again, the bokeh for each of these different tools are unique and different. And this is kind of the basic category of the effects that are created. So for the suites, it's a sweet spot in the center that can be moved. Your edges are slices of focus that you can move the slice either left or right or up and down. There's a swirl effect that happens mostly when you've got busier backgrounds. You'll see it. And then the velvets have an overall glow. And then the soft focus is more impressionistic, which you've already seen the early version of. And there are more. I mean, every time I do this, I forget that I need to add the next thing that they've come out with. But it is a shift in perspective that you have to embrace. So it's an artistic look. Every one of these lens babies are manual focus. Well, my eyes, like a lot of people's eyes, aren't that great anymore. And so with newer cameras that have focus peaking, it's helpful. But there's also techniques that you can use that will help you get the area that you want in focus and then change your aperture for a wider depth of field. So we're going from the literal to interpreting, and that's kind of where I live a lot of the time. For me, it's more than just putting a different lens or optic on my camera. It's about freeing me to be creative, to play, which I do anyway. But it really gives me the sense of I don't have to have everything sharp. I don't have to. I can kind of let myself go and let myself explore what I'm seeing through the viewfinder and just have fun. And that's a big part for me is it's photography is my therapy. So it doesn't matter what tool I'm using. I need to have a release and I need to have a way that the world goes away. And Lens Baby is just one of those ways. So this is with a Sweet 35 and the macro filters, and this is straight out of the camera. I've done nothing to edit this. In terms of getting started with Lens Babies, most cameras now you can use either manual or aperture priority. I have a tendency to use aperture priority because it works on my Nikons. It works very well. I don't have to worry about the figuring out, the shutter speed. That's already taken care of for me, and then all I have to do is change the exposure for the great light. Minimum focusing distance on all of these varies. In terms of focusing, for the most part, if you start with whatever Lens Baby you're using at f4, that's usually a point at which you can see the edges of focus to get started. Some people use f4 all the time. I have a tendency to start there, and I will go wide open. And on some of the velvets, at least one of the velvets, it's f1.6, and there's no way that I can find an edge of focus at 1.6 on a velvet, because the whole look of the velvet is to create a glow. So if everything's glowing, there's no edge. At f4, I can find that edge and then move forward from there. If you get any of the optics where the composer is the holder of the lenses that you can interchange, they're called optics, but they're lenses and they have different looks. And the best way to get started with the composer and any optic is just to not tilt it left, right, all over the place. Just shoot it straight ahead until you get a handle on how it works. And then you can begin to move your sweet spot to wherever you want it. So I have a boatload of Lens Babies, and I had to come up with a system for, well, how do I know what I'm using? Now, when I use this system, it works really well because I may have 3 or 4 Lens Babies, and I might try different ones on different subjects. So a friend of mine puts a name on the top of the holder, and she takes a picture of that and then starts shooting. I came up with the stick method here, which I can take a picture of any of these sticks, and then anything after the stick is that particular lens baby. As I said, every system works if you use it, and sometimes I forget. So sometimes what I have to do is remember to take a picture, and then let's see, here's the stick, and then here's my finger going, yeah, anything before in the other direction is that. So, but this is what that image might look like. And that tells me where I started. Focusing tips, I've kind of talked about it already. Shooting straight ahead is one. Using an aperture that is wider so that you can see that edge of focus, making sure you're not too close to your subject, that you're not stepping inside that minimum focus zone. And recomposing by tilting, etc. With any lens, particularly your macro lens, if you're shooting macro and you're inside that zone, it's not going to autofocus and it's not going to manual focus. So, just being aware that the lens babies work the same way. I talked about the Composer Pro. So what you see in the middle is the composer. That's the holder. It's all it is. You put it on your camera and it communicates somewhat. One thing to know is that when you're using lens babies, you're looking at your metadata, you will always see F/nothing. So it's F nothing because it's not communicating the aperture to your camera. It's F nothing means you've used a lens baby. So these are the optics that will fit in, among others, into the composer. And when they're fit in, that's how you get started. So as I mentioned, the early optics, this is a list of some of them. As I mentioned, the favorite one for me was the soft focus, which you're seeing here. And now they have this list, where they're up to the Composer Pro 2, which is available in mini mounts and holds all of the optics. So I have all of these. I have all of them. I have more probably than I need of the older ones, but when somebody gives me something, I'm going to say, yeah, thank you. So this is the Spark 2, which is an older version of the Lens Baby 2.0, in that it does have that squishing and pulling, push and pull, and moving your sweet spot. But the thing that it has in addition is that you can choose an aperture. So that's something new. And you can also, I haven't done it because I don't use this as much, but you can put in, other opportunities to make use of. Edward Weston said, when subject matter is forced to fit into preconceived patterns, there can be no freshness of vision. That's what I love about Lens Baby, is that I'm always seeing something new and different. Here are the options that are available for getting closer. I have the macro converters, but for me, just like my regular photography, I don't use them very often. And one of the main reasons for me is that I don't want to get stuck in the position of only shooting close. So for me, even with my normal, quote, normal photography, I'm using diopters on the front of my lens when I want to get close, and taking them off when I don't. So there's more flexibility for me in that way. But I use the macro filters a lot. I even have added a +10. So there are times when I really want to get close, and there are times when I have two sets of the macro filters that are on the right, and I've stacked every single one of them. So I don't have any hesitation in using things to get closer. I also, with my Nikon not D, gosh, Z6 II, I don't have any problem changing my image area from FX to DX, because the DX also is another way for me to get closer and fill the frame with my subject. So these other accessories here are things that I would use the top two, the 500D close-up lens. And I have Nikon 6Ts that they don't make anymore, but they are also diopters. And the 6T screws on perfectly to my Velvet 56, which is probably my favorite. But I also make use of, even with lens babies, I make use of circular polarizers when I can, diffusers, reflectors, flashlights, tripod, and shutter release cable. What you're seeing on the far right is called a Raynox. A Raynox is another tool to have in your bag that can sort of snap on to various lenses. And so it works well on my Velvet 56 and my Velvet 80. It's dependent on the filter size of whatever you're trying to put it on, but that too makes you get even closer. So we've kind of talked about the various lenses. Again, I have all of these. So the Velvets are my favorites. I have the Soul, which is also really cool because it's small and I can fit it plus others in my bag. The Twist I use infrequently, but I still have it. The Trio is something where it's 3-in-1. I don't have that because I have everything else. The Obscura takes you back to the film days with pinhole and zone plates, and you need a lot of light to use that. And I haven't experimented greatly with the Obscura, but I know people who use it and use it very well, creating all kinds of moody images. With that, you definitely want to be on a tripod. So here are the Velvets. 28 is a wide angle. You see the minimum, the wider apertures, 2.5, 1.6, and 1.8. The Velvet 56, the one that is just about always in my bag. And the reason it is because it's kind of that normal lens, and I can add diopters and get close when I want to. So this is the Velvet 28. This is what sold me. This shot right here. No close-up filters. This is me just getting 2 inches from this zinnia. And I thought, okay. A friend of mine said, you want to try it? And I was like, well, I'm not really interested in it. And then this. I said, okay. So I went home and ordered it. But, we've got wide angle, right? And you're not limited to wide apertures either. So a lot of different ways that you can make use of it. This here, purple gentian, near where I live, super close, wide angle macro. Just some examples of the Velvet 28 that might be unexpected and were when I initially went out with it, because I was like, oh, how cool, this dead fern, I can do this without adding extra filters because I could get that close. The Velvet 56, you'll see that, as I've said, this is my favorite. And you can kind of figure out when I've added a diopter and when I haven't. This is in that fish house. Here, handheld multiple exposure, rotating on the little flower on the top right. I'm left-right challenge, so here, side of a field in my back patio. So the look and feel right? I'm not adding textures. I'm not, fancying things up. This is what I'm seeing through the viewfinder. Now, a couple of those with the 28, obviously I'm adding additional filters to further interpret. But these are basically straight out of the camera with basic editing. I use Photoshop, so basic editing with Adobe Camera Raw and not much else. I don't feel the need to because it gives me the look and feel that I'm after. Selective focus, just a little bit, and the rest just does what it does. So these are all the Velvet 56, including this mushroom. And this just by adding the Nikon 6T. And here laying on the ground, photographing 2 acorns. And am I concerned? This is probably at f2 or f1.6. I'm sure you can figure out the answer. Am I concerned that everything is tack sharp? Absolutely not. What I tried as best I could, but even then I didn't care to get upset about it. What I tried to do is get that little, at least the little teeny bit here, and then seeing detail around the edge of this particular acorn. The 85 has a longer focal length and narrower angle of view, and I took this just walking around my town, experimenting. This in my living room, added a texture. In a garden, and this I added the Canon 500D in a garden in Virginia. So, these are the looks. Now this I probably added the 500D. But those are the looks of the velvets, very soft, ethereal, kind of an overall glow. With the suites, which you see, let's see, 35, 50, and 80, different focal lengths. You can change your aperture, choose your aperture from as wide as it will go. Often it's 2.5 or 2.8 on these up to say 16, and they fit in the composer. And this is what I'm talking about, where you can change the placement, the location of the sweet spot. So here's the sweet 35. I may or may not have used one of the macro filters. The flowers in the background, that's the effect of the sweet. And I moved the sweet spot to this front peony. It's not right dead center. Adding macro filters in my living room. So just some examples of the Sweet 35. Sweet 35 is not necessarily where my mind and my vision lives. I'm kind of in, which is why I'm very often adding the macro filters. But I push myself to use these tools in a way that I normally wouldn't shoot, because I do want to be able to visualize what I can do with each one. So that's Sweet 35. You see what happens to the background. And just in the center, move it. And that's just with the tilting. If you tilt too far, you will get vignetting. And that's just seeing the edge of the optic. Here's an example on the right-hand side where that's kind of the, you can create your own textures depending on defocusing and whatnot, just by making use of what's in front of you. So if you're not digging a particular subject, you can go, well, there's a lot of stuff going on here, and maybe I can create a texture. And so there's a texture, and I could go further and use that with any number of my other images. The Sweet 50 is more in the vein of how our eyes see. And of course, I probably added to get closer in the dandelion shot. Hosta. Now, I will admit that, this might make some of you a little dizzy. But it's again to show you that you can use it in a wide variety of situations. And this is with the macro filters added. This is calla lily. And the background, this is in my back patio. And my back patio is not, super neat and super refined. So I love that, that the background is changed and somewhat magical now. This is not Photoshop. This is not adding a texture. This is just an edge of focus with the Sweet 50. And whatever's in my back patio, it's feeding off of that. So that's the Sweet 50 with macro filters. And here is just shooting into weeds with the sun coming through the back side of it. I went again into an antique store and put on the Sweet 80. Again, narrower angle of view. And these are wood planers. And, different examples of where you can use say, I don't know, this could have been F11 and then wide open. But these are possibilities with the Sweet 80. It also, the Sweet 80 has a clutch. So you actually have sort of a built-in close-up lens in it. So if you wanted to get closer, it's still a minimum focusing distance. But I go from here to here because this made me feel better about this dahlia. It's perfectly fine the way it was, but choosing different apertures, moving your sweet spot from one area to the next is sort of a neat option with the sweets and also with the edges. I don't know if I have all of the edges. I have at least one, and it's probably, I hate to say it, but it's probably my least favorite. It's a slice of focus, and I did play with it. So my subject obviously is this garden creature. And, I moved the sweet spot around. This is where I think the edge can shine because it's just, an edge and the rest kind of goes soft. A friend of mine, Mary Doherty, she just did magic with the Edge 80. I have yet to achieve this kind of look with the edge, and so I probably need to challenge myself again with it so that maybe I have more success and feel more comfortable. This is one of mine, Edge 80 on rust and patterns and stars. The twist is another one of those less frequently used lens babies of mine. But this is what happens to the background. It makes a swirly bokeh, and if I had something in the middle, then I could make the something in the middle sharp, and that would be the background behind. So here's an example of that look. A lot of people use it for portraits. This here is in one of the gardens that I visit. And this is in a cemetery, if you can't guess. So I push myself to try and use it so that I get a better feel. Your Lens Baby Souls. There's a Soul 22 for your micro 4/3 cameras. And then the 45 is for your full frame. And you see, it's very small. I mean, that's a small, flat. You could fit it in your pocket if you wanted to. It has a fixed aperture of f3.5. So if you want to know, if you're obsessed with knowing what aperture you used, get a Soul because it's 3.5. You can't change it. You can tilt and twist. And the interesting thing here are these blades. These blades will give you a different look and feel. You can engage both of them. One of them, you can move the blades around, or you can use none of them. So here's Magnolia without the blades. and then width. And so you see the difference with the background. So that's with no blades. And then with the blades engaged, I still have a sharp magnolia because there's still a center sweet spot, but the background becomes different. Here's that same little creature in the arboretum locally. There's the blades. You know, a lot of people I know like it with the blades not engaged, but to be able to have that possibility, here's one side and the others, you can move them around. And again, an opportunity to have a starting point for a texture that you can use later. These are the blades engaged, and what happens here too. I kind of like the effect very often because it gives me some flexibility. Now I went to a place and I just brought the Soul 45 because I had limited time. And so when you think about, you know, well, what can I do with a Soul 45 and I'm hand holding, I didn't even bring my tripod. And I do a lot of in-camera multiple exposures. So I'm rotating, I've got it looking straight ahead, I'm shooting down, and my rotation point is in the middle here. And I later went back with a different lens and did, instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shots, I did 10. And I liked it better just simply because I filled in those gaps. So this is the Soul 45, no blades engaged, multiple exposure in camera, and I probably added some effects here with either maybe topaz, texture, or impression. But you know, there's still flexibility to use those other creative techniques. This is a newer optic, soft focus 2. Remember going back to that was my all-time favorite way back when. Now instead of we still have the blades that you can put in. I typically am using the dots because of what it does to the background. Sometimes I'll use it without, but usually I'll have some sort of background effect. Fits into the composer. And these are some examples of the soft focus too. And you can change the aperture. I saw a bird in this cactus, this century plant. Great for textures. You know, I'm embracing soft focus. You know, it's kind of one of the things I do anyway. But, you know, when necessary, I want to have something not necessarily tack sharp, but sharp enough. You know, that's what happens with a dandelion. So there's all kinds of really cool things that can be done and minimal processing. The double glass 2 is also a new one that came after the soft focus. Again, you can change your aperture. You've got these various, what do they call them? The discs, the creative discs that you can drop in, and it changes the effect in your backgrounds. So these are some examples of that. Here, I don't think I have a disc in here, but this is that selective focus with softness surrounding the subject. Same thing here, hand holding inside. This is in the Finger Lakes, Sonnenberg Gardens and Mansion. So still life, somebody else did this, and I'm just taking advantage of it. Even the ivory soap. The Omni system is another system that you can actually use with any lens, you can use the system here where it attaches to your lens, different filter sizes. And then there's a magnetic ring where these fit and you can adjust them for different effects. Again, this is, you know, I don't have a handle on every single lens, baby. And this is one that, you know, I think I've just named a list that I need to go back and really work harder at. But when you see this in action. It's all kinds of different effects. And I just have not mastered it. One of the things I do know is that you need to be shooting at a much wider aperture. My first attempt at using the Omni, I'm shooting at f16. Well, that's going to show the edge of everything. So in order to get the effect, you want to be shooting at wider apertures so that you're not seeing what's right in front. You're using kind of that shoot through technique where you're putting something as close to your lens as possible and shooting through. So this is a before and after of mine. So I have tried, but with and without and with. And those are just, some of the color anyway, you know what I'm talking about, those color things that you can put in front. The bottom line,
Gels.
yes, and this applies everywhere for all of our photography. The longer you stay with anything, with any subject, with any particular lens, maybe that you're trying to get better at using, the longer you stay, the more you see. So this is a Velvet 56 shot with the Nikon 6T diopter, and this is a Columbine. So I can say, well, this is a Columbine, but what I see is not just a Columbine. I see a hooded woman with one of those long dresses and a cape. Okay, you may not see it, but the blog post that I'm just releasing now is about what are you looking at and what do you see. And there's a difference between what's in front of you and what you see. So I'm looking at a Columbine. I'm using my Velvet 56 and the diopter as my creative tool. But what I'm seeing is that old woman with a hooded, long dress and hooded cape. So just an example. Here I'm seeing a dancer taking a bow. Right? I'm not looking at that. It's an old flower that I probably, somebody else might say, well, it's dead, just throw it away. And I'm like, no, it's taking a bow. Again, for me, I'm looking at a hellebore. I'm seeing another one of those hooded, this long dressed woman with a hooded cape. What am I looking at? What am I seeing? These are all Lens Baby shots. This is probably a sweet 35 or a sweet 50. And just making use of motion with the Lens Baby that's in my hand. Probably the Velvet 56. And I love this quote. Erin Hansen wrote, "There's freedom waiting for you on the breezes of the sky. And you ask, what if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" Right? So I have not really fallen with a few of the Lens Babies, but I don't feel like I have flown. So it's just waiting for me to get to that point. And this is your, take a screenshot of all the information about me if you want. And in terms of Lens Baby, there's a link there. That's my affiliate link. And if you go there, you can put in the code W Davidson and save 10% off of your purchase. Now, sometimes it'll only allow you to use one code. And so if things are on sale, sometimes, as long as they're not new products, you can still put in my code. And other times, if you just use my link, it gives me credit, no holding back on the fact that if you buy something, I make a little bit of commission. That's the whole point of affiliates and ambassadors. But I'm an ambassador first because I just love Lens Baby. And I wouldn't be an ambassador to anything if I didn't love it and use it. So I just want to thank you for the invite and the time. And I am going to stop my share and answer any questions.
Okay, we've got one question from Brian. Are you able to shoot handheld or do you need a tripod?
Yes and yes. So very often, and particularly because of the positions that I might want to get into, if a flower, for example, which is a subject I photograph a lot, if they're on the ground, there are certain times when there's just no way a tripod is going to work. So I have mastered the elbows, the bunch up your jacket, don't breathe, that type of technique. You just kind of get better at that. Increase my ISO so that my shutter speed is fast enough. So I will very often hand hold, but if there's a particular image that I see that I want, yes, I'm using my tripod. So, and if you're a little shaky, right, it helps always to use a tripod. So it's a yes and yes or yes and no.
I have a
Yep.
question. Um, my impression of these lens baby pictures that I've seen that are so beautiful was that you go out and buy a lens baby lens and go out shooting. But
Mhm.
after hearing your talk today, I'm thinking you go out with a suitcase full of equipment and shoot. And if you go out to like the Smokies and you might see a bear, you've got your suitcase full of regular equipment you have to carry and your
No,
other equipment, your lens baby equipment.
no. When I go out in the field, right? I I have I am have become a minimalist. I am not the person who puts the backpack, the very full backpack on my back walking into the woods. No, I first of all, I don't want to do that. Second of all, with a backpack on my back, it's much harder to get up. The balance, thing is like, oh my God, how do I get up with this stupid backpack on my back? I have I don't think they make it anymore, but I have a belt pack by Think Tank. And so I typically, when I go out, I have my normal lens. And what I use a lot is the Nikon 28 to 300. It's two or three lenses in one, right? So that's my straight lens. I may also put in maybe my macro lens or something else. But there's room for me to pack one or two lens babies and the close-up filters, which I use, and my shutter release cable. I mean, I make it as simple as possible. Do I drive around with more than what I carry into the field? Absolutely. Do I sometimes pack my roller bag full of regular gear and my roller bag full of lens baby? Sometimes, but not very often. Usually I'm picking a selection of them that I know the location will lend itself to. So I no, I no. I
What
don't
about
want to carry everything.
what about the cost of all of this?
Mhm.
Are these lenses like on the order of a few $100s and you have filters on top and what
Yeah,
about
I
that
mean,
cost?
some of them, like if you let's use my favorite, the Lens Baby Velvet 56. That's my favorite. I mean, I think it will always be my favorite. Um, it's probably it's less than 500, I'm pretty sure, like 449 or something. So when it goes on sale and then you can save more money, you're not talking about spending thousands of dollars. Um, to the velvet, I have a circular polarizer that I add and keep on because I use it because it does come in handy. And I have already accumulated, a collection of diopters and close-up filters. So I don't have to add much. I can go out with that, which has the polarizer on and the diopter and my normal lens that I might use, and I'm ready to go. So you can invest as much or as little as you want. If you think that, say, the sweets, for example, are more to your taste, then you have to buy the composer, which I don't know the price off the top of my head, but that's the holder. And you can buy one optic at a time. And if you're going to go that route, then I always recommend, if you lean toward getting closer to your subject, then add the macro filter set, because you'll use it. So you can spend a lot of money, or you can spend a little. And if you really want to kind of just test the waters, then maybe the Sol 45 is a good place to start.
Anybody else have any questions? Either from the panel or from everybody else watching? Just drop it in the chat or Q&A.
I'm just wondering if you've tried your infrared cameras with your lens babies, either the color or black and white, because I know you're a terrific
Yes.
infrared proponent and photographer.
Absolutely. Yes. So what I have found so far, and that's kind of going to be one of my, I'm not really a big project person, but that's one thing that I am going to work on. I'm going to use, for example, I'm going to put my Velvet 56 and my infrared together and marry them and go out and photograph, because of the look that the Velvet creates, but also because what I've seen with other people who have tried it, there's no hotspot to deal with the Velvet 56. And I've used it a few times and I've noticed the same thing. So yes, I plan to go down that rabbit hole too. And that's where, if I'm out with my infrared and I just decide, you know what, I'm just going to shoot infrared, I probably will put the Velvet 56 in my bag, because it's part of my experiment and another way of, seeing the world.
Thanks.
How much of these effects do you think you could replicate in Photoshop without buying the equipment?
Just about everything can be done in Photoshop and software, but for me, the experience of seeing that through the viewfinder, I don't have to do anything. If I didn't want to, you see all of the images I've shown you that don't include an obvious texture are minimally processed. That makes it so fun in the field and so fun on the computer, because I don't have to go, well, how do I make that look? I don't want to do that.
There's probably some that you can't replicate too. I mean, it's like using a polarizer. You cannot duplicate the look of a polarizer in Photoshop. You can make it blue, but with the bokeh, some of those I bet you can't replicate in Photoshop.
Like if I had to say, okay, well, what about the Velvet 56? The thing that, the way my mind would work is, okay, so how do I create that glow? Well, there's your reverse clarity, right, in Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw. So that's possible. And you may, I hate to say it, but I don't do a whole lot of masking. You may be able to, mask so that your edge is not, all unsharp in that reverse clarity, which creates a glowy romantic effect. If you have Nik software and you use Color Efex Pro, then Glamour Glow would be a way, in the same way that I use it in my infrared to create an even more ethereal glow with the infrared. That would be, those are like two ways that I can think of for the Velvet 56. But the others, yeah, I don't know. It's just so much easier and so much more fun for me to do it in the field.
And you probably have to get the effect that you're going for at a certain depth away from the camera, which is doing that in Photoshop or Lightroom is probably like trying to get a good focus stack.
Right.
There is no good software that does a wonderful job of doing focus stacking. There's always trade-offs.
Right.
And
Right.
so you're trying to get that effect at a certain depth away from your focus point.
Right. Now, you put that challenge to some processing geek, and they'll figure out a way, but I don't know. For me, going out in the field and having the experience, whether I come home with, um, images that I absolutely love, that are stellar, that, I'm like, oh my God. And just going out in the field and having that experience, is what makes me use Lens Baby, but also just go out in the field. That's my therapy.
A good
What
thing to
brand
use
of
in the,
close,
go ahead.
I'm just curious on what brand of close-up filters do you use? Because there's a wide range of prices and quality there that I'm just curious.
Yes. So, way back when I first started, and that's been a while, my first set of close-up filters was the +1, +2, +4, right? The single pieces of glass that are domed. And they worked, they worked enough to get me started on realizing that I really, really didn't need a macro lens because I was using them and stacking them. The better quality macro filters are your diopters, right? So Nikon 6T is no longer available. Your Canon 500D, Marumi makes some. I think Nisi makes some. There are a lot of companies that make them. Basically, for me, what you want is the close-up filters. Sometimes they call them lenses, close-up lenses, that screw onto the front of your lens and that are two pieces of glass that are pretty much corrected for distortion. Because I have everything I need, I'm aware of certain brands, and I also know that the Canon 500D isn't always available, because I think what happens is
Yeah, it's only on the used market.
it's a great product, but they do a run and then they run out, and then they don't do another run until they feel like it. So it's a hit and miss on that. But the Marumi, the Nisi, those are probably available on a much more regular basis. ProMaster also makes the close-up filters. So that's another option.
Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I guess, well, thank you, Jamie.
Thank
Very
you.
interesting. Has me thinking about getting something. Maybe the Velvet 56 sounds like the one that I might start with, but
I love it. I love
yeah.
it.
And I like the soft look, and I like landscapes, so it sounds
Yes,
like it would fit
and
in.
here's the thing. I feel like I mentioned it, but in case I didn't, the Velvet 56, for example, you could shoot at f1.6 and get next to nothing in sharp focus. The further you get into like f4, 5, 6, that glowy effect starts to go away, and by f8 it's gone, and now you use it as a regular lens. So at f8, 11, 16, it's just like using a 56 millimeter lens.
Okay.
So that's another bonus, is that, well, I don't want glowy all the time. You don't have to. You just change your aperture.
Yeah, great. Well, I wouldn't be too surprised if I end up with one the next time we have you on for something
Okay.
else.
Well, if you have any questions, anybody, just feel free to email me.
Yep, I'll make sure I post all your contact info on our website so that everybody can find it, and we'll
Okay.
make sure that everybody knows about it. So,
Okay,
but
great.
great. Well, thank you very much for coming today. It was a good day to have you, since it's
Mhm.
gonna be nice out later today, but we still got some snow on the ground, so.
Get your
Yeah.
boots on.
Strange weather in Wisconsin,
yeah.
as usual.
Yeah.
But
All right. Well, thank you so much.
thank you. Have a good
And-
day. For everybody else, we'll go into just general Q&A if anybody has any general questions.
I'm gonna leave.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you, Jamie. Bye. Anybody have any questions, problems, things they'd like to talk about?
Just to follow up on Lens Baby, if I may. I mean, you can get into it for not a lot of money. I mean, it's, you know, for looking on B&H, you know, you get some basic kits for $300-400. And I know once I rented you know, I rented a Lens Baby, I think, to take down to the orchid show, you know, down at Chicago Botanical Gardens. It's one way to try it out too, you know, rent it, and it's not a big investment, but just another way to approach it.
Yeah. No, I've looked at them for years and been tempted, just I've never pulled the trigger on it, but I always get enthused after I see somebody else's work and go, well, that would be fun to play with.
I just don't know how she chooses which one to take out.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
To me, yeah, that's always was the problem when I would look and try to figure out which one would I want to buy first. And, you know, you go through all that and there's so many different variations, and sort of depending what you want to do, that's what always got me. And I just go, well, I'll put it off for now, but
Well,
I
you know,
sort of like
you
just
get
the
the
soft
composer,
focus
and I
stuff.
think, you know, you go with the Velvet 56, and that would probably be a pretty safe way to go. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure, I haven't looked in a while, but you can probably find these on eBay, even probably at you know, at a good price too. So
Yeah.
a lot of ways to get into it and play with it.
No, I think it'd work great with flowers and even landscapes and all sorts of different things. So, yeah, I would look, for me, I'll look at the Velvet 56 or maybe the wide angle one, but
Yeah, one thing I was curious about was, you know, there is a good variety for the Z system, you know, in Nikon. I saw one first, it was an F, but then I dug in, and there's a bunch of Z system
yeah,
lenses. So
yeah, I would think they've got to be filling out the market. It's funny how it's come about, because I remember selling something similar to that way before Lens Baby came out. It was made by a company called SEMA, and it was basically a tube that slid back and forth for focusing and had a cheap plastic lens on the front and discs that you dropped in for f-stops, and you just threw it on your camera and you focus by zooming it in and out, and it did a lot of that for a lot less money, but they weren't around real long, and it was pretty cheap, but no electrical connections at all. But
does
I
anybody
remember
here
that.
have does anybody here have Lens Baby experience?
I don't
I've
know.
shot some with it. I've got the 56. Of course, I shoot on a crop sensor, but so it does give you a little different effect than you use it on a full frame. But I had the 85 also at one time, but it didn't seem like it had that much of the effect because of the crop sensor. But I like the 56 a lot. And then I had the 28, but that thing was really sort of heavy to be lugging around. So, but
What did you
I've
use it
got the
for,
Soul
Steve?
45, which is fun to play with.
Oh, sorry. What did you use it for, Steve?
Eh,
What did you use
it's
it
fun,
for?
but it takes time. I mean, when you get one, what I had a target, and then I would change the stop and to sort of get the idea of what kind of effects I'm getting. Uh, it doesn't come easy. I think you have to spend some time with it to get to feel what these different f stops are going to do for you. And at least that's the way my approach was to set up a a flower in the living room with the window light coming in and tripod, and then I could have the same focus distance and then play with the various f-stops to see the effect, and then put them into Lightroom and look at, on the screen and see what am I getting, and compare what I would like to get. And that just comes with some experience. So before you buy one and you run out with it, if you haven't played with it before you go, you're probably going to be disappointed. But that's my opinion anyways.
Interesting. We've got Lana says she has a couple of them as well in her group attendees that are watching. So few people have them. The only reason I start thinking about it is since I'm limited to a smaller shooting area, I thought it might be a fun thing to play with. So I'll continue to think about it. But.
Yeah, I was thinking that it might be fun. I've committed to shooting every day, and I've been doing it coming up on 5 months now. But there are days where going out in the -6-degree weather just doesn't, unless it's really beautiful out. I've gone out a few times, but I end up shooting something here in the house, and I don't have the lights and stuff to do any good work in the house. But if I had a lens baby, that would put a new aspect on in-house shooting during the cold days or the bad weather.
Yeah. No.
Be fun to try to shoot some portraits like of cats, or I'm thinking of trying to photograph cats with a lens maybe, and with different f-stops. And I don't know, I don't have a cat, but sounds like I can picture that being fun, trying to get the cat to hold still. And hopefully you wouldn't kill the cat, but stay, cat, stay.
Yeah, cats really listen to you well. Mine's wandering around somewhere down here, so you'll hear him once in a while whining away. But any other questions or discussion areas? Boy, a quiet group today.
So we can get into, as we typically do lately, Marty, I've been getting into a bit of drone photography discussion. I was wondering if anybody's broke any propellers lately. I've had to order several.
I have never replaced my propellers, even from my Mavic 2 from 3 years ago. I've never really had any damage or wear down enough where they felt like they had to get replaced. That's interesting. I have plenty of extras. With both drones, I bought extras when I bought them, but I've never had. What are you doing? You have to replace what are you crashing into?
Yeah, she's running into, flying into stuff.
Well, I had an incident that I almost wish was on film, because from an onlooker's point of view, it was probably pretty funny. But I was set up in front of the museum downtown, and I was photographing with my tripod at the end of the railing for the iconic picture of the museum. And I was doing a time lapse, so I was shooting for about an hour. My camera was just there shooting and shooting. So I thought, oh, well, while I'm doing this and I'm waiting, I can fly my drone. And so I got all my equipment out and I put the drone down on the ground, and something told me, it was getting late and cold, and told me to move the drone, 6 or 8 or 10 feet away from the tripod. And I was like, oh no, I'll just raise it up a foot and then back away and fly. And I set it down just probably a foot away from my tripod, and I did that. I started it up and I raised it, and I started to back away from the tripod. And I don't know if it adjusted itself or I made a little of adjustment, but of course it went right into the tripod. And the arm of the drone, it kind of caught behind the propeller and put the tripod right inside of the arm between the propeller. And then it just sat there and spun and broke all the propellers. And once the propellers were broken on that one arm, it raised up and broke all the propellers on the front one. And when those two were broke, it turned sideways. And I'm sitting there trying to get it away, and there's no way that it'll move away at that point. So I at least wish that I'd taken a picture after it got tired of breaking everything. It just slammed down to the ground, and I was worried that I'd done damage. But I came home and went through calibrations and replacing all the propellers, and it's fine.
And how much time did all that take? Probably just a matter of a couple of, not even a minute or so, I bet.
Oh no, probably 5 or 6 seconds. I mean, it was like, oh. Yeah, describing it took a lot longer than actual happening.
And how many people were watching this happen laughing at, I mean,
I don't know. There were a couple people standing around, and I don't know if they understood what was going on, but I had broken propellers all over the ground. But
I think I saw it on the news, didn't you?
Yeah, we'll have to check the museum for the video footage.
hey, there's an idea, Clint.
well, there were a couple of guys that I had met down there that do a lot. If you watch Instagram of drone footage around Milwaukee, they're getting pretty well known. There was that I had met them there and talked to them a couple of times. So I'm sure the next time they went down there, they kind of looked around at the propellers. It was dark and I couldn't pick everything up. So they probably thought, oh, somebody down here crashed a drone.
Oh, I've been pretty lucky over the years. I've managed to avoid running into things like that. I don't know. I just kind of fly in open areas maybe, but
Yeah, I've been pretty careful before, but I figured it was like when my son was learning to drive and he had a car accident, a pretty bad one, but no one was injured. And I said it was the best thing that had ever happened for a young person to go through a crash like that and learn how easily it happens. And so it was a good experience.
no doubt. Yeah.
Good thing you're not a helicopter pilot and that I'd hate to go flying with you.
I won't do that again.
We've got Mark here asking, do we have any suggestions for a 2 or 4 terabyte external hard drive for photo storage?
6,
Mark,
8 terabyte?
Yeah, 2 or 4 terabyte. Are you looking for something that's super fast or just for standard storage? That would be the big question, because most of the time for long-term storage, I use spinning drives yet, but for everything else, I'm going to solid state drives because they hold up better if you drop them, and they're smaller, easier to carry. One of them that's not too inexpensive is OWC makes an Envoy Express. That's a Thunderbolt drive, so it's super fast, but the 4 terabyte is like $565. They also have an 8 terabyte for $1,400, which would be great for long-term storage because it's fast, but
Whatever he's deciding, I would recommend getting twice the size that thinks he needs.
yeah.
My experience is I've gone up and up, and I think I have it's either 12 or 16 terabyte that I make backups to, and I have to have twice the space for the backup. So I'm looking at filling it up, and I can't get my backups to run. And I'm looking at going, if I'm at 12, I was looking at I don't remember, 20 something terabyte, and it's like $900 to go to Western Digital's 40 terabyte. And I think I might just at some point go ahead and plunk it down and get that. But I'm also looking at backing up to online rather than trying to do it at home.
Yeah, I do both. I have a RAID box that I have 2 RAID boxes that hold 16 drives, but for my photo stuff, I've got everything on, two 20 terabyte Toshiba drives in the box just for the photo stuff, and then one is backed up to the other, and that works pretty well. For standard drives that I've used at work are standalone drives I use a lot of Seagate, and I've had always good luck with Seagate. They last 3 or 4 years, and then I end up replacing them. Costco has Seagate ones now. I think they go all the way up to 10. To 10. Used to be 8. I think it's 10 or 12 terabytes for like $175, which
I've
is
never
pretty
had a
inexpensive.
Seagate that didn't go bad on me. I go with Western Digital and I've
Yeah,
gone years.
I've had every drive you can name go bad. So I found Seagate, but like I say, I only keep Seagates for 3 or 4 years for the cheap ones because their warranty is 3 years. So you know they're going to last 3 years, and after that, you're taking a chance. The Toshiba one is a 5 year, but it's designed to go into a RAID box, so that one lasts a little longer. So it really depends what you're looking to do with it. If you're out going to be traveling, there's a lot of 2 and 4 terabyte SSD drives that I would go to for traveling. Blanking out on the name, SanDisk, I think, works fine for 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes. The 4 terabytes I've heard some problems with. I don't know if they fixed that.
These little ones, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't take it any further. But yeah, I like those little SanDisk drives for portability. I've got a couple of 2 terabytes, and I really haven't had any issues with them. I
Yeah.
know that there has been, but I think you're right. Any drive can have a problem, no matter what it is. So
They're all going to die sooner or later.
Yeah.
So
I've had a Lacy, a 1 or 2 terabyte for traveling that I've had for a good 10 years, and I'm surprised at how long it's lasted.
yeah. I can't remember who owns LaCie anymore. I think is it Seagate?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think Seagate is what's in the LaCie drives. They flip back and forth. Now one of the company, I think Seagate now owns LaCie, if I remember right. We got Ken Bowman has the SanDisk Extreme Pro portable in 1, 2, and 4 terabyte, and he says they work very, very well. I know.
Yeah, B&H has the 4 terabyte for $299 right now. That's a pretty good price.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Costco has the 1 terabyte for $79, which is, I use them. They're really nice and fast. I use them with my new Mac minis as main storage for it. It's almost as fast as the drive that's built into the Mac Mini, and so it works well. Plus, I use the SanDisk Extreme 1 terabyte just for my Lightroom catalog because it's so fast. It's as fast as having it on the computer itself, and yet now I've got it separate, portable.
Nice.
So, plus all that stuff, of course, is backed up.
So I've got a video here that I want to bring up because this will be Drama's next drone. And I think it's important to share with the group.
Okay.
So if we can get it to play, play. So I can just see Drama hopping into her little drone here and flying over the countertop and seeing
Keep the
Milwaukee,
tripods away.
seeing Milwaukee from the sky. Yeah. So, and here she goes. She's up and she's off and running. That's the future right there, man.
The Jetsons.
Is that the camera that is dragging behind down below?
They're actually, where is it? And somewhere in Europe, they're actually getting a test for that. I think, is there something for the Olympics coming up? I don't know where the next Olympics are. I heard.
I know there's
France, I think.
There's
right in
Yeah,
New York
there's-
City.
Yeah.
What?
There's been tests right in New York City. So, I mean, this is technology coming. But it's obviously for the ultra rich, guys like Brian.
I'm always surprised that they don't have more guards around those props. so dangerous. I could just see somebody not paying attention and walking right into it.
Mhm.
Like on the big ones or the even our little
Yeah, and
ones?
the big ones. Well, even the small ones. To me, that's the one dangerous part of a drone is that those props are all exposed. I've seen some where they've got a
Guards.
better covering around them so that it's safer. But
So,
Yeah,
you know,
for
I've
my,
been wondering about, I've seen that you can order the guards to go over them, but I'm wondering the disadvantage of why people don't do it. Is it just the cost? Do you know, Marty?
well, it's not cost. I've got a set here for my Mavic 2, but I had them on just to play with them, but they're just kind of awkward to put on and off. And at some point when we can start flying over people, that's going to be one of the things they're going to require. But another thing is it adds weight to them.
yeah, it takes that small Mavic that's underweight, just under by what
Hmm.
1 gram or something,
Yeah.
and now puts it way overweight that you're going to have to license it different.
For any
Yeah, and it runs,
flyer.
so what, Marty?
For any recreational flyer, they'd have to worry about that. If you're certified with a Part 107, it's kind of a mute point at that
Right,
point.
right.
Yeah, the any extra weight though adds to the time. I'm already having problems with my battery only lasting 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, I can go out a few hundred feet and come back with the cold weather.
Well,
It's,
yeah, cold weather will definitely bring your battery life down.
yeah.
Give any recommendations on the best weapon to use to shoot down a drone?
Shotgun.
You all do realize that is literally a federal offense to shoot at a drone or shoot one down.
Well, it's a federal offense to fly a drone in certain places like
Oh,
national parks.
certainly.
You can fly over the parks, you just can't take off and land in the parks.
Correct. Yep.
I have had a Woodnall Park here in Franklin area, Hales Corner area. I was flying out in the snow when there was no one around, and I took off in the park, and I had a park ranger come down, and I was like, oh, I better bring it down real fast because it's probably not legal. And he came up to me and rolled his window down and, how's your day? And he was real friendly. He didn't say anything about the drone.
Well, I challenge someone to do that in the Blue Ridge Parkway out in Tennessee or North Carolina.
What is
I
it?
challenge somebody to launch a drone outside the Blue Ridge Parkway down in North Carolina, and then catch up with it and fly it then you can fly it legally if you launch it outside the park.
Yep. You can, as long as you're traversing the airspace. You just cannot take off or land from within the park, but you can take off and fly over and fly back. If you're going and you're hovering over, it's a little different, but as long as you're traversing the airspace, you're fine.
Yeah. Not gonna happen in a national park, is it?
On the outskirts of them. I mean, and
Yeah.
keep in mind, you have to fly within visual line of sight. So, right, you're not going to fly you shouldn't be flying very far into it. So, it's not to say, Brian, that everybody flying a drone is following the rules like they should be. Certainly not. But everybody driving a car doesn't follow the rules, and everybody, so, drones aren't inherently a bad thing. The operator sometimes is a bad thing.
Well, yeah, that exactly.
Yeah, I do wish they would reduce the noise. Though I remember before I was a drone pilot, I kind of hated them too, but it was mostly the buzzing and the noise. And I bought low noise propellers, which helped some. But that's one thing in the technology I wish they would improve is to get them quieter.
My Mini 3 is considerably quieter than my Mavic 2 is. And that's just with the standard blades. I haven't even put on the blades that are supposed to be a little less deep decibels. So I mean, they're never going to be 100% quiet. I mean, they're not propulsion instruments. They're
Right.
Yeah, they gotta cut through the air. So
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I did fall in love with it though, and the pictures that I can get.
that's
I don't do a lot of high flying or far.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to get into positions that I otherwise, even with a ladder or whatever, I couldn't get into to get pictures.
And I totally agree with you on that. With the drone, it gets you to places that you can't, and not making fun of, anyone with a disability or handicap or getting old. It's sometimes much more safer to fly the drone than actually like, oh, I'm going to climb down this mountain or this bluff.
That's true.
It's like any technology. I mean, if you use it responsibly, if you use it within the rules, I think it's a good thing. But yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. You're out in the park and you don't want to hear buzzing around of a drone. I don't know. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of things that happen too that affect, but for instance, I live right by the Mead Wildlife Area, and of course you can't fly in the Mead because, well, it might disturb the wildlife, and yet we allow an army of hunters to go out there every fall. We allow snowmobilers to run through there all winter long. And yet I can't fly my drone over it because, well, I might disturb the wildlife. I mean, there's inconsistencies with the policies.
And it's hard to spot out on Photoshop a drone as it's in the middle of your shot. So
Do we have any questions on photography at all? Just photography? I don't see any out there.
no, nothing's popping up. I don't know how many people have started listening about using the mobile version of Lightroom. That's gotten to be a new topic that's been popping up by, well, both Tim Gray and Matt Klaskowski. Instead of using Lightroom Classic, their Lightroom, the mobile version, I guess you'd call it, or what Adobe calls Lightroom, now added access to the local disks. So instead of having to catalog the images, you've got all the capabilities of a basic Lightroom Classic, but without having to import the images. You just put the images where you want, or you can use it as a browser to look at the images and that are on your different hard drives.
Jeff, are you saying that that's for use on mobile devices, or this is for desktop?
Well, it was originally designed as for mobile devices, and it's actually on you can when you subscribe to it, you can use it on your iPhone, your iPad, and all that. Plus, it also has a desktop version.
Yeah.
So they're, but if I understood correctly, what you're saying is they're kind of adopting the use your own file structure version versus
right.
So more like
right.
what Luminar does, where they're utilizing your very own structure, which makes more sense to me.
Yep. I would imagine someday Lightroom Classic and this Lightroom will probably be merged into one that you'll be able to do both. I actually now use both of them. I can see if I find my mouse.
AI will take care of all that for you eventually.
Yeah. Well,
So
and there
Jeff,
is.
how are you using Lightroom rather than Lightroom Classic?
Let me get it set up here and I will show you.
I think, it'd be great for browsing initially and delete a lot of stuff you don't want. It'd be a fast way to do that.
And that's really how I'm using it. So controls. So this is Lightroom, the regular version of Lightroom. And what it used to be is just that you just had this cloud. Oh, that's a great shot. This is why I don't walk around anymore.
Oh boy.
But let me get to something a little better. But everything that I have that's stored in the cloud in Lightroom Classic is on here. So I have all my car stuff and that. But what they've added is this local browsing feature which then you can now browse any images that are on your hard drive. And you can create favorites, or you can just browse. And so I can go, say, to my hard drive that has images in it, and these are images from different years, and now I can just browse through it, and you get the same film strip. You can still star them, you can flag them, you can make adjustments to the images. You've got your exposure settings, your color settings. They've broken this down into different terms, but it lets you do pretty much the same thing that Lightroom does. You've got effects where you can adjust texture clarity. You got detail, you get your optics, you've got your lens blur. One of the things it doesn't let you do is you can't work with plugins with this one, but you can take the image and say go into Photoshop, and then you can work with plugins. So it lets you browse through images fairly easily, which is what I like. So I can go through my hard drive and I can actually access my photo archive. And if I go into, you got to really sort of dig down into the stuff more.
It does sound very, very much like what what Luminar have been doing for years.
Yeah. Now, see, these are my drone shots, but I was flying in a Cessna 172 to get them and sticking my head and camera out the window. Why I can't. So this is how we did it before drones became popular.
I've done that too. Yeah.
Downtown Richfield.
Yep. So
You were the passenger, right?
yep. Yeah, I never wanted, it's not a good thing to fly and take pictures at the same time.
Yeah, it's a little hard to do that.
Yeah, that was fun. My grandson got his pilot when after he got his pilot license, he took me up, and that was fun flying around, trying to take pictures and stuff through the window. But
well, see, if once you know the pilot and you get that permission, there's just one screw that you undo on the window, and you that way you can the window will flop all the way up and open on the outside of the plane, and then you can not shoot through the glass, and it doesn't affect the performance of flying at all. And you just have to open it carefully so it doesn't get ripped off the door. But most pilots will let you do that, and then you can shoot right through open air. And the big trick is not putting your lens out into the airstream. I know a number of people that have actually lost their camera because the wind took the whole thing, and they didn't have the strap around their neck, and it just took the camera right out of their hands, and down it went 1,500 feet.
I guess it's good practice for flying on Alaska Airlines, huh?
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Bad joke.
But
For
so
work,
yeah,
I was asked to go up in a helicopter. This was for to photograph some civil engineering projects. It was my first time in a helicopter, so I brought my camera, and the pilot asked me, "Would you like me to take the door off?" And I thought, I'm terrified enough of just being in the helicopter for the first time. I don't think I want to go up with the door off. That scared me a little bit. So I said, "Oh, no, that's okay. I'll just shoot through the window. It's fine."
Yeah, the window's clean enough, but yeah,
So what I'm hearing you say, Jeff, is you use it primarily for browsing.
Yeah, so I use it for browsing, but you can do adjustments. So if you need to make adjustments, you've got your full range of adjustments, and it's the same. It doesn't ruin your image. It just adds a sidecar file, so you can make any adjustments you want. You can reset it if you happen to want to do that. You've got the same auto for auto exposure. You can shift to black and white. You've got HDR processing. You got everything that you've got in Lightroom Classic, but it basically lets you browse. And instead of having to import like Lightroom Classic forces you to do, you can just put the files wherever you want on your hard drive and browse to it. So it's basically a browser with the full raw adjustments. You can do before and afters.
Jeff, what we're looking at right now is Lightroom on your computer, right?
Right.
You put the same version on your phone.
Right.
Yeah, and the same version is on your phone and can be on your iPad. If you have the subscription to Lightroom Classic, you also have Lightroom that you can use. So you can use both at the same time, although if you make an adjustment in Lightroom, it's not going to show up in Lightroom Classic. So that gets to be a little hairy if you start to do things in outside of Lightroom Classic. It's going to mess that up a little bit.
I think you need to choose which one you want to live in primarily.
Right.
Well, if I'm
To go
using,
back and forth and live in a hybrid world, I just don't, it would drive me crazy anyway.
Yeah.
well, if
I
I'm
use
using
it.
that for traveling, if I take my iPad with me and a hard drive, and I have a lot of pictures that I'm manipulating when I'm traveling, is it just a matter of coming home and loading the pictures up to your on your computer and then importing them into Lightroom Classic? Is that?
Yeah,
Look,
that's all you'd have to do. And that's where I'm thinking it would be handy is when I travel, I can not edit it so much, but get rid of the junk photos right away. Because you can go through and do the same type of editing and culling. So it would help save space, and you could probably do it off of certain iPads, even if you've got it if you get the images onto a hard drive somehow.
So when
That's
when you
the
import them,
challenge.
so when you import them into Lightroom Classic, you said that it makes the Lightroom makes the sidecar files, and so when you import them, it reads the sidecar files. Is
Yeah.
that correct? And applies
Yeah.
it? Well, one of the disadvantages with that, it seems like, would be that I deleted all of the sidecar files from old folders years ago when they used to make them. But once you've deleted those, you've lost the history of what you've done.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the advantages of Lightroom is you keep your history of the changes that you've made in your catalog.
Yeah.
Jeff,
if-
have you
if you-
noticed an improvement in speed with browsing using this?
Not really. It's about the same as Lightroom Classic because it still has to generate or create the preview for it. I mean, it's not. This is an old set of files, and it goes fairly quick. So you can see it's not too bad, but and this is the first time Lightroom has looked at any of these images, so it's not bad. For me, it's not one that I'm ready to make that switch to, but I'm using it more for when I need to browse like a group of images on a card. I can throw the card into my computer, pull Lightroom up and look at those images right away and decide what I want to do with them. Or for me, I've got a lot of files on different hard drives and I can go and look at those files and pull them, and it's not stuff that I want in my Lightroom Classic folder. So it's got its uses. You got to figure out exactly how you might want to use it. If you just want to use this and not Lightroom Classic, you can get 1 terabyte of cloud storage for $19.95 a month. I think you get, can't think what you get for the $10 a month. It's something like 100 gigabytes or somewhere in that area.
Yeah, I
But-
think I think what do you get? Maybe 20 gigabytes for free? And then.
Yeah, right
then
now
a-
you get 20 gigabytes for free, or not for free, but included with your Lightroom Classic subscription. And
Yeah, I think that was one of the advantage they thought to, they'd rather pay the $20 a month and get the 1 terabyte and not, and then it's off, you can access it from anywhere.
yeah,
It's not like your hard drive at home that you're limited to.
right. And then you can access it with any device. So it's got different possibilities. I know Matt Kluskowski has switched to that completely for his workflow because it works for him. For me, it doesn't work with my workflow because I like some of the other things that Lightroom Classic offers. The slideshow part is not on the regular Lightroom, and that slideshow is really handy for doing a lot of stuff. The book module has gotten a little iffy. I've had problems with it, but you can create books. I don't use the web module in Lightroom Classic, but now that Adobe's added the local hard drive stuff, it's makes this Lightroom a little more usable. If you're gonna want to subscribe, or if you need just a browser that can, let you browse through your images a lot quicker.
Of course, it allows you to see if you have anything in Lightroom Classic that you have a collection for, and if it's synced with the cloud, then you can view those
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Lightroom
and
with your phone. That's one of the main things I use it for.
yeah, and so that's the other part. Your collections that you're syncing to the cloud are called albums in Lightroom, and you can actually look at all those images and see. This is like, these are my 2023 images that are my favorites. So
when you rate images and, yeah, rate and put keywords on them, is that information still there when you import back into Lightroom Classic?
yeah, because that would be in that
Oh.
sidecar file.
And you have
So-
collections, but you lose your collection information, I'll bet, if they're albums. You said they were albums in Lightroom.
Well, they call them albums, but in Lightroom Classic, they would be the collection that you're syncing to the cloud. So this 2023 that has 20 images, that was my favorite images for 2023. That's the same collection that I have that's called 2023 images, is in my Lightroom Classic collection that I had syncing to the cloud. So I don't sync all mine to the cloud, but I do sync a few of them. So I have just a few, and I actually was working on a book, so I've got my book here.
Yeah,
which
one of
has-
the, I was syncing to the cloud with some of my collections, but it was only putting the thumbnails up there. And if I went to the entire file, uploading it to the cloud, I was gonna go over my limit and I didn't want to pay for more. So I
Right.
stopped syncing to the cloud altogether because the thumbnail size pictures weren't doing much.
Yeah, you do have to watch. I get 100 gigabytes because I have the full Adobe suite that I subscribe to. So I get 100 gigabytes, and I have 10,000 photos in 76 albums right now, and it's only taking 8.6 gigabytes. Because as long as it makes a big enough file, and I mean, you can zoom in pretty good with these images. I know this is a really highly cropped file.
How much are you paying for that?
Well, for the full Adobe suite, it's I pay $52 a month.
Do you have Premiere with that?
Yeah, I get Premiere with that, InDesign, Photoshop, Lightroom, um,
Because I've been wanting
Acrobat.
Premiere, and I went to Adobe, and it's like, I'm paying the $10 a month, and I kind
Yeah.
of want to stay with that, and I don't want to up my space because I don't want to pay the extra money. But I went to Premiere, and it's not included with that $10 photography bundle.
No,
And
no, that's,
to add Premiere, it was going to be like $30 more a month, or
yeah. So if you do that, you might as well do the full Adobe suite. Actually, if you want to do video editing, the one that it's free right now is
in focus.
DaVinci Resolve. too.
Resolve, Blackmagic Resolve.
Oh, okay.
It's a very good editing program. To get the full set of the Premiere features, it's like $300, but the basic setup in it will let you do just about everything you need, and it's free.
Oh, I
So
want
check
to,
it.
because I've been trying to do it you can do a little bit in Lightroom and you can do more in Photoshop, but even that, I've almost given up on doing video, and I've wanted to do some of my drone photography with short videos. And
Yeah,
I've almost given up on it.
You're an Apple, right?
Use iMovie.
Huh?
Use iMovie and Apple. That's what I've done my short little videos in.
Yeah, I'm on Windows.
Well, I thought you had a Apple.
I have an Apple, what do you call it? Laptop, an older one. I don't use it very much unless I travel. I take it and use it mostly for doing images while I'm traveling or uploading to the hard drive on that.
I missed that. Are you using Windows then for a lot of stuff?
Yeah, for most of my stuff, my desktop computers.
I would take a look at Vegas Pro. Vegas Pro is for Windows. I've been using that for years and I love it. I found it easier to use than some of the Adobe products. I played with some of those years ago. You got to find it on sale. It was on sale around the end of the year, and I got an upgrade for $150. But I just love that one. It just allows you to do all kinds of things. You do multiple tracks, and I do stills and video clips together, put music in with them. And so some of my videos, I've got, 4 or 5 tracks going. You can do multiple cameras, which is really fun. I used to do that in church and do multi-camera editing. It's just got an amazing number of features. Vegas Pro.
Yeah, I kind of gave up with my Canon. I kind of gave up on video. When I was in Africa, I was shooting and doing video of some lions mating one time, and it's amazing video, but I can't really do anything with it because it's porno, animal porn. And there's one picture where the lioness, she turns over afterwards and strikes at the male because it's painful for her. And I have a picture of her doing that, and I tried to get a still out of that, and it was just a lousy JPEG. I could never get a very good picture of that, but it was an amazing shot where she's striking at the male lion.
Well, yeah, I've done that in Vegas Pro, so I'll save the JPEG. You're right, it is low res, and then I'll take it into photo AI, and or upscale it. I mean, there's a lot of software you can use to upscale images, and try that, and then you'll have something that's really useful that you could share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I might go back to that old video. It was like 9 years ago or something. So yeah, the technology has improved. I might try to get it again.
Yeah.
out of the video and work on it. Thanks.
Yeah, I did, I was in Botswana last November, and one of my goals was to do a lot more video than I'd done in the past. And so I've got a bunch of videos up on YouTube that I created, combination stills and videos, so.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good video. He's got a lot of good videos from Africa. So
Yeah, if you're interested, just search my name, Brian Lotimus, on YouTube.
Okay,
Brian Lotimus YouTube, and it ought to pop up with my channel.
I'll take a look.
So I've got about 6, 7 videos from last November.
Cool.
Everything from termites to newborn elephants to lions, warthogs, a lot of elephants.
Yeah, there's quite a bit I would like to have had on video, the birth of a young antelope, or, you know, just when it's first walking and things like that. Africa definitely is good for.
Yeah, videos just say so much more. I mean, it's more of a story than just a bunch of stills.
yeah.
Yeah, and same thing around Milwaukee. This guy that I've been following on Instagram that puts up videos every day. The difference in, he's been flying out over the Pierhead Lighthouse one morning, and it was so much more than what a still, because the birds flew by the lighthouse, and it was only like a 10-second video, but the difference in that and a still was, as he circled around the lighthouse, was just amazing. And so even locally, the pictures of the video I've always been a still photographer, but I'm kind of wanting to do some video.
I'm
Yeah.
with you on that. I think the only reason, if I was using just my still cameras, I would have no interest in it. But yeah, with the drones, it makes you want to do it.
Yeah, and it just takes a while to learn that video editing, whether it's the Blackmagic Resolve or Sony Vegas. You probably can find a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do it. I use Final Cut Pro, but that's just an Apple product, and they make it. It's as easy as iMovie is in Apple, but a little more sophisticated. And that's how I throw a lot of my videos together, because I can just drop them in, and it's got a magnetic timeline. But
Yeah,
Resolve
there's-
is my other one that I fall back to.
Yeah, Vegas Pro, there is an excellent how-to video that is really professionally done. It's up on YouTube. I've been watching it off and on. It's about 20 minutes long, but it gets into just about everything. It's really well done.
So
Like-
it's not free, right, Brian?
No, you're gonna pay. I mean, I paid 150 for an upgrade on it.
For a year, or for just
No,
the,
that's a perpetual.
because I'm wondering about if it's better than Premiere at $30 a month. That was,
Yeah, Premiere
It's
is
different. It's just very different. I played
Yeah.
with Premiere years ago, and I just couldn't get used to it. And then I stumbled onto at that time it was Sony Vegas Pro. They're not with Sony anymore, but I just found it's so much more intuitive to me. That's for me. And it's used by a lot of pros in the Windows world.
Yeah. The Premiere is getting old, and they're not updating it as much as a lot of the other programs are. That's why most of the people doing a lot of the professional stuff are going to the Blackmagic Resolve. And with Resolve being free for the basic version, I mean, it can do everything you need to do with the free version. The paid upgrade just unlocks a couple of specialty things that you probably wouldn't even get into, because it unlocks things that are in the Blackmagic video cameras, and fancy color matching and color grading that most of us don't need to fool with. So that's why
You know,
Resolve is
it's
so nice.
if you have the photographer's version, there's Adobe Rush.
Yeah,
That's included, and if you want to do just basic videos, that's a good way to get started. If you just have one clip and you want to play with it, there's not a, you can't, basically you can adjust start time, end time, you can, it has some free music to add to it. You can't do a lot of fancy edits, but if you just want to play with a video,
Another one that you might be able to do, and I've got to check here first. Let's see, where do we go?
depends on what you want to do with your videos, you know?
Mostly what I want to do is the same sort of things I'm doing with my stills, is to adjust the colors and crop it and get it small enough to get up on Instagram, for example, or to send to somebody.
Well, Lightroom, you can
Yeah.
do a lot. Well, you can do some basic adjustments with your videos. You can, you know, so you're aware of that.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, they don't give enough.
There is an Adobe thing. I just created a brochure. Express.adobe.com, and it is free. For the basic, you've got premium settings, but you talked about putting stuff like on Instagram, and that they have, let me share and I'll show you. Step two. So this is Adobe Express, and they even have a video section. And if you want to create videos and doing like an Instagram reel, you can create from a template or from scratch, or TikTok, a story, even YouTube videos. This is a free thing that Adobe has. Uh, I used it to create a brochure for our camera club because it had a basic template and let me create a brochure, but it's got a lot of marketing. You can even edit photos in here, but you can do, it's designed to, you know, post photos for Facebook, Instagram, all those different.
Let's go back to drama. Her question, can you edit videos?
Yeah, and you can, I don't have a video I can pull in here. See, let me think a second. I might be able to find a video. Well, yeah, if I go into storage.
We got test videos down there.
Yeah, I don't remember what's in that. Let's see.
Ken is in there.
Surprise.
Oh, this must be a camera club. Yeah, this, oh God, this is an old camera club. I don't know, that's pretty big too. It's, let me see if I can find something small. Well, here, this would work. This is only 26 megabytes. So this is a video I've got, just was an opening for some of my videos. I gotta admit, I haven't worked with this new. So if I want to turn it into what, a YouTube video, it's going to bring it in.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to do is to clip out sections where when I'm flying my drone, sometimes I might go 2 or 3 minutes while I'm filming, but I only want like 20 seconds of part of that video. And so it's kind of
Right.
hard. I bring them into Photoshop and clip out parts of it, but
Yeah, it looks like you've got a basic editor here where you can change the size of the video, you know, what you want to keep and get rid of. It looks like you can do it from either end. You can add more videos, you know, one right after the other.
That's about like Lightroom. You do the same thing in Lightroom.
Yeah. Um,
There's your
You can,
adjustment.
looks like you can do adjustments, you can add effects.
What kind of adjustments? Click on adjustments, Jeff. Please.
Looks like, let me get to them.
Oh, that's nice. That's a good set.
Yeah. Now, as soon as I jumped to it, it got rid of the adjustments. So you can, it looks like you can add a video on top of a video. And if you don't want it, you just hit delete.
I wonder if you
Okay.
crop.
I think you can. Yeah, you can change the size of it.
Okay, there's a crop window. Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
What about adjusting the exposure and the color?
Yeah, there is a way to do that.
Well, that
Yeah,
window
when I
Jeff was
adjust-
in, that window Jeff was in.
Yeah.
That was there.
When I
Okay, yeah,
adjust
here it
the
is.
exposure in Lightroom, in the
So I can,
library manual, there's a quick develop, and each click of the arrow, it's a vastly different amount of exposure, for example.
Yeah, here.
yeah,
I'm
this
wondering if
is
you're
letting
using,
me
Look, drama. Here we
do,
go.
you know, a fair amount of adjustment.
oh, that's kind of cool.
That's good.
You can adjust the color saturation and even adjust the warmth, sharpen it, blur it.
That's cool. You know, I had looked at that program once and I couldn't find anything to do with it, but this is cool. And that's free with a $19, just the photographer subscription.
It's free. You can add, there's a premium version to it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That will add stuff to it. Some of it.
Well, are you
it's
running the
hard.
premium? Are you running the premium?
I'm in premium because it automatically puts me there. If I here, let me sign out and that might show a little bit more.
$20 version is very limited. Yeah.
Well, this is you can just do a free version. You just have to now see you've got to sign into it. Let's see if I can. Yeah, it looks like I have to sign in. So, but there is a free version to it. And now I've got a.
Yeah, it's very limited, and they try to sell you the upgrade.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what, but it's worth checking out.
Yeah, I'm doing
So
it on my computer now, Jeff, and it's letting me get in and select video. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
definitely.
you can edit to a point, and you can do a lot of the stuff. There's certain templates would cost money if you wanted to use them, and those are the ones that have like a crown or something, and that's would cause you, if you wanted that stuff, to upgrade to the paid version of it. I don't know why this is taking so, I guess because I'm.
That actually might be more cost effective for me than paying for Premiere or one of the other products.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna check it out.
Especially if you're gonna want to export it to YouTube or something like that. Let's see if I just, come on. There we go. Oh, and back to that sign-in page again. I don't know why it's having such a hard time. There we go. Now I'm in there. But yeah, it's got some, but you can see like there's templates in here that this one would cost money. The ones that have these little crowns. That doesn't come with the free part, but your basic stuff does work. You can do a lot of the stuff free. So check it out. Like I said, I used it for doing a brochure for our club, and it gave me a great starting point. And then I just took and changed all the words and pictures for it. And you got a spot that keeps your stuff so that you can see, like, here's the Camera Club brochure that we worked with and created so that we can hand this out. And then I can export this out as a PDF file and to get it printed.
Jeff,
So
it's not allowing me to open any videos. It's just allowing me to open stills in the basic version.
Huh. I was told you could do videos. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm going in the wrong door. I don't know.
Yeah.
This version is just so basic compared to what you've got.
Huh. Okay. Like I said, it's hard for me to know because whenever I do it, I get signed in and I don't have a second account that I probably should set up a second account that doesn't have it because, yeah, here's the premium stuff.
Yeah, I'm
And I
getting a
have-
message here when I open my video. It says, place, edit, and play with premium assets. Only upgrade when you export.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the
Okay.
video, but apparently if I go to save something, I think they're going to try to make me pay for it.
I was just playing in Canva. Have you ever used Canva?
What?
Have you ever used Canva?
Canva? No, never heard
Yeah,
of it.
that would be another free one that is out there.
Really tried video and I just went to look and you can do some video work in Canva. I've done other projects like making logos and things like that. But it's a really cool free program. You can do a lot of different design stuff in there. So it might be just one to take a look at.
Yeah, this is it here. I think I've got a login. Guess I don't remember though what the login would be for it. But yeah, I played with it once. You can do videos. Yeah,
Vegas
I don't
Pro
know.
Edit is currently $199. It does go on sale from time to time. That's a perpetual license.
Okay.
That's
So it looks
Vegas
like you can
better.
do some basic videos in Canva too.
Yeah, I don't know about the editing part yet. Like I said, I just did what Jeff just did. I brought it up but like Jeff, if you go under elements, I think it was up.
Oh, yeah.
Those are just different graphics and things you can add in. But I would imagine once you bring a video in that it probably does allow you to do some basic editing to it.
Let's see. Yeah, you can add type. Design. I got apps. Yeah, so you got some basic stuff and it will let you export. I know it lets you export out to different types of sharing sites. I don't. This is just a flame video that I was able to drop in. I know they can do a lot of. Okay, here's edit video. Oh, so you get epic and festive.
You gotta adjust them.
Festive.
Go up to adjust, Jeff. What does
Oh.
adjust give you?
Okay.
There you go.
Looks like you got warmth.
Excuse me.
Yeah, looks like you got a lot of the same stuff here.
That's free?
Again,
Canva-
it's free, but then there's a paid version too for extra,
Most of the things
stuff.
I've done, I mean, I've certainly been able to do 3 things in there and never had it. And then Jeff, if you go up under share on the upper right, then you can see the different options for exporting. Like there you go to Facebook or to
Yeah.
different That might be like share on social, right below that. Do the drop down and it probably gives you, yeah, there's all your different. So then it'll format it correctly for those different uh, applications.
Yeah.
Doesn't give you YouTube, interesting.
Well, but with YouTube, you're loading a video into YouTube. You don't usually have to size it for within YouTube because all you're
Yeah,
ever doing there.
1080.
Yeah, 1920 by 1080, but
But there, I guess you have to download it, and then you're right, it doesn't. You'd think it would go directly there, but then you just have to download it and then upload it.
yeah,
into
you'd
YouTube.
have to download it and then
Yeah,
re-upload,
that's not hard. That's not hard.
which
No, but
isn't a
that-
big deal.
Hey
The
guys,
big
I gotta
thing-
run. Sorry, it's been fun. Thanks, Jeff, for leading this once again. So
Okay, no
thanks,
problem.
guys. See you.
See you,
Thanks for the
Brian.
info, Brian. I'll look at your
Bye.
YouTube site.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So yeah, it looks like you can do quite a bit. You just would want to make sure you filled like you'd set the video up to be the right size for YouTube and all that. So
That's
yeah,
what-
there's a bunch of different ways to do this. So gives you a ton of ways to check it out. So
Oh, good. I'll keep shooting my video then. I was kind of giving up on it and just shooting stills with my drone.
Yeah.
I'll screen and show a couple that I did briefly just within Night Photo, and just so she can see, because they're very basic videos, but it does make a difference. So stop sharing and I'll steal the screen
Yeah.
from you. They're nothing Pulitzer Prize winning or anything, but they're just a couple quick little videos, and like, so you guys have all seen my Marquette Lighthouse, but this just does give it such a different viewpoint. See the light flashing, and it's kind of cool,
Did you do this, Marty, with the by moving the drone, or did you have I've not used any of the, what do you call them?
Yep, I use Circle, I think is what I use for this one.
Yeah, I've not gotten into that with my drone, and that's one thing I want to do.
I actually slowed this down so that it took a little longer to go around. The actual video goes around a lot quicker than this. So within iMovie, I was able to just slow the overall speed down.
And this is your Mavic 2 Pro, right?
This was with the Mini 3.
Oh,
I didn't have my Mavic 2 up there. So that's one. This was
it's an interesting view.
and were you just flying on this one, or were you using one of the set programs?
was hovering for this at like 200 feet, and then like there, obviously, I moved the gimbal up just a little bit just to catch it. But that was obviously the grand finale, so to speak. But it does. These are just all much different videos, but
Yeah,
just hovering and shooting. And were you guys able to hear the music when I was playing that last one or not?
not really. It was also
It
breaking
came
up your
it came
voice.
through garbled.
Yeah. So I put music to these, but I think I'd have to change a setting in the sharing here to.
Yeah, I was going around the water tower downtown Milwaukee, that old water tower, and I was actually going around it with my thumbs. And I guess it's a good thing to practice, because if you're good at it, get better at it. But I was wanting to do the automatic program circle around, but there's a hospital right there, and I was afraid if I set it to program, I need to be able to get the drone down really fast if there's a helicopter coming in.
Yeah. I mean, you can always hit cancel during the middle of that and bring it back down, but then where are you at? Are you in a good spot to stop?
Yeah.
Say,
So-
Marty,
Or even
what were you
bringing
looking
it
at
down
there?
to
What were they
just-
doing?
Ice cutting. An old-fashioned ice cutting.
That's cool.
What is
Um,
ice cutting? Cutting a hole in the lake, pond?
Well, as soon as I say goodbye here, so what we do is, yeah, we harvest ice out of a lake, a little pond, and then we store it. And then for like community picnics and stuff like that, we've got huge chunks of ice. They're roughly about 16 to 18 inches square blocks, weigh a couple 100 pounds apiece. And it's good clear ice. I mean, so
Where do you keep them?
we have a storehouse right in the village here where we it's all really a really heavily insulated pole shed, and so it'll last. So we usually do this in February, although this year I don't know if we're going to do it or not because we may not it's safe enough ice. But anyway, usually, somewhere in about November, December, they'll go pull any ice that didn't sell from last year out. But I mean, they're still good sized blocks. So we got well, here, I'll bring some pictures up and I'll show you.
Is the shed where you store them, is that have power or is it just
Oh, no, it's
really?
100% done by just insulation, and then in between each layer of ice, there's sawdust that gets put in there to kind of keep them from fusing together.
And it's clear, huh?
It's clear, yeah.
I know when I was in Antarctica, we dug out some sea ice that was a big, huge ball of perfectly clear ice that they took on our ship on our expedition ship, and they used it for the evening dinner for making drinks.
Yeah, I'll bring up some pictures from let me get back to Zoom here and kind of show you this. This is a fun event every year that we do. Well, most years. Last year we didn't have good ice conditions either, but so here you can see the size of a block of ice. I mean, they're big and it's clear ice. I mean, it's
Wow.
Let's see here. There, and then got some here at the ice house when we get there.
Does it mix with snow, or does the snow always, when it's freezing, does the snow always kind of go up or down, or?
I mean,
So really-
the size of the ice.
Well, I was wondering if the ice is clarity with layers in it, or,
No, not really. I mean, you can see like on this one here, just the very top has a little more, yeah, probably because of the snow sitting on top. But as soon as you get down a little bit, I mean, look how clear that ice is. I mean,
Wow.
it's pretty cool.
That's
Um,
amazing.
Let's see here.
and you
Sure.
use that for keeping things cool, or can you make drinks with it, or, I mean, is it?
It's mostly to keep things cold, like beer. So here's the ice house. So obviously a trailer bringing the ice in. And this is all volunteer, all handwork, and we do it just because.
That's interesting.
So here you can kind of see, so behind this plywood is, I don't know how much insulation, and then you can kind of see the sawdust in between the rows, and all that does is it keeps the ice from fusing to itself so that you can break the blocks loose.
Like in the old days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much just the way they did it back then.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's a couple areas up here that do this annually, provided the ice conditions are good and safe. Like I say, last year we ended up not doing it. This year we'll see what comes of it. This is from 2022. And I know the pond where we've done it in the past, we can't do it there anymore. The property was sold, so I don't know where we're gonna go, but it's quite a little production. I mean,
I'll bet they're
Um,
heavy.
yeah, they're a couple 100 pounds a block.
Wow.
Um,
So that water is not potable, right?
No, it's not, but we tested for pH levels for contaminants. So that if we are using it for the picnic, that you know, you're not getting any bacteria or anything like that.
But it's pretty clear you're probably getting most of the contaminants out on that, like I said, on that sea ice. We took it out of salt water in on the ocean, and it was good for drinks. It was not salty at all.
And this pond is at its deepest 45 feet deep. It was as deep as they can go when they were building the new Highway 10. They used it as a burrow pit, so it was as deep as they can go without having to get a mining permit. But it's a deep pond. I think that helps keep the water good and clear. The pond we used before this ended up getting a lot of algae blooms in it, so we can't use that one anymore. But I don't know if we have to move it this year where we're going. But I just thought that video was cool because it just showed all the activity that goes on, you know, when we're doing this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
interesting.
it looks like that pond doesn't have much runoff going into it. I think that helps out too with the clarity.
Yeah, it is right next to, I don't know if I have a shot that shows going the other way, but it is right next to Highway 10. So you could potentially get some runoff from salt from that, but even that's probably pretty minimal. This picture here might show Highway 10. Yeah, so that's Highway 10 there. But you got, you know, quite a bit in area. You got a big berm, you got a road in between here. So really for runoff to get in there is pretty tough.
Yeah, it's like a buffer zone there with some plant material probably helps
Right.
with the runoff.
Yep.
It definitely has to stay cold for a long time and very cold for how thick that ice is too.
Exactly, and that's why I'm thinking, you know, we had that good stretch of a couple weeks, you know, of cold weather, but um, it's not enough to make good ice and then sustain it for us to be able to safely go out there and do this. You know,
Yeah, it's not going to be thick, at least.
we're pulling trucks out on the ice to do this. You know, this is not right off the shore. This where the trucks are. You know, this is all water. So it's not, you know, it's got to be safe before we go do it.
How many people were involved in that? It looked like that one video. It looked like there was about a dozen people.
Let me go back to the video again because there's a lot of people involved, and then there's people just at the ice house. Wrong window, Marty. There it is. There's people just at the ice house that spend the day there. So, you know, trucks are coming and going. So you got, you know, you probably got a couple dozen people out on the ice. And then, like I say, back at the ice house, there's probably another, you know, 8 or 10 or 12 people there unloading the trailers. So the turnaround time is pretty darn quick from the time they load a trailer, get it unloaded, and get back to doing it. But
I guess you really have to know what you're doing when you're out on that one where they're cutting there in the middle, towards the middle. I would be afraid to go. You ever lose people and people fall in?
we haven't in a long time. In fact, if there's kids out there, we mandate life preservers for them. And there are kids out there a lot of times because it's kind of an old family tradition thing.
Wow.
I just think the video was fun because there's just so much going on. Trucks coming and going, they're cutting, the guys are chopping. You know, it just tells the story of what happens there.
That's amazing.
Looks like we got Old Faithful.
Yeah, so that thing really kicks off. I was just before I went back to the video, I was going to see if I can find the picture of they used to use a converted Model A or Model T, and it was kind of a cool thing. I was just going to see if I can find the pictures from that before we went back to that. Let's see.
Yeah, I went down to Lake Michigan on, I think it was Wednesday night, and wanted to get some ice. There is just a really thin layer of ice where the Milwaukee River is coming into Lake Michigan. And usually, this is my 5th winter here, and usually in the end of January, I can go down there and get some ice pictures.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
amazing. But there's not very much down there at all
This
right
is
now.
a strange weather year.
Well, I know they were racing with the motorcycles in the marina down at McKinley.
Were they?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was last Saturday when it was sunshiny. I did get a picture. Had my drone up with the red lighthouse on the Milwaukee Pier head with the skyline in the background. And there's an area of that bay right there that had a reflection of the skyline. And part of it didn't, but I think the one that had the reflection was ice, but it wasn't very thick. It didn't look like ice. So when the waves come in, it cracks up the ice and you can kind of see them moving, but I think it was just too calm that day.
But you are also right too, because I guess Lake Michigan was like been at 40 degrees.
Yeah. The week that we had, what was that, like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we had the really cold spell? There was no ice before that, and it froze up pretty good. And then started melting again.
here you can see the ice house before we were just starting to throw blocks in there.
Wow.
I'm looking to see, I should have a picture. No, I guess this is the new machine already.
So people buy this ice for, parties and stuff like that up there.
If they want, they could, yeah. And so it's Junction City Ice Company is basically kind of a nonprofit, but it's not really a company at all. But any money that is raised is donated back into the village for, like, if somebody run into some hard times or something like that. So there's a fund of money there that they can use. Christmas time, they fund meals for shut-ins and things like that. So it's kind of a neat little program, and it's I've been here 20 years, and it's been going probably since the 70s. They've been doing it.
Now, I just see something on the internet. The Great Lakes start 2024 with smallest amount of ice in at least 50 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
believe.
I don't think we're gonna see much ice because we're supposed to be close to 47 by the middle of the week, so.
Mhm.
Really?
I know it was really bad last year too. It was very little
Yeah.
ice cover.
Yeah. And
But
then we
we're at
say
least-
that you just jinxed it, Jeff. We're gonna have a month
Yeah.
of sub-zero.
Probably. Well, we need some more sub-zero, but at least we've gotten the rain that we need, or moisture that we needed, because we're way ahead now. So
Things are changing. When I first started gardening, it's got to be like 40 years ago, 45, taking it seriously. Chicago area was in zone 4B, the USDA,
yeah,
Department of Agricultural hardiness zone 4B. Now I see they just upped it. At one point they went to 5, now they're at 6.
Wow.
That's a huge difference
I
in 40
guess
years.
it's global warming. It's advantage for us because we get a little warmer, but for a
And
lot
we
of other
have water.
places,
Yeah.
yeah,
A little story back in the some prankster kept bringing roadkill armadillo to Illinois and fooling around with the heads of the DNR in Illinois because they would find the armadillos and thinking, wow, the armadillos have moved up. But that was in the 70s. Now they have actually moved up naturally.
Oh,
And they had an
geez.
article about how they're in like around Springfield, central Illinois. So who knows, how much longer before they get into Wisconsin, but they're
Yeah,
already naturally in Illinois, which it's hard to picture an armadillo being in central Illinois.
It
Yeah.
might be a little too wet for them here. I think they need more dry, don't they?
Oh, when we were in Florida, we saw them right along the swamp, right next,
Oh,
right, right in the swamps, right in
Huh.
the.
I think of them as West Texas and Arizona, New Mexico area, but they had them in Florida. Wow.
I think they can handle water. I think they can. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think we're straying way away from photography, so I think we'll call it a day, considering we're 41 minutes over as it is. But want to thank everybody for coming. Jamie did a nice job. Next month, we have Joe and Marianne McDonald talking about backyard wildlife photography. So they should be very interesting. They've been around quite a long time, and they're good speakers. So they'll be here next month. I'm working on a guy that does underwater photography for March. I'm not sure if I'm going to get that one worked out or not yet. Otherwise, we'll just do 2 hours of Q&A. April, we've got Gregory Holden talking about monochrome photography. And May, we have, I just got his name, Graves, Russell Graves. And he's going to be talking about also backyard stuff. Or no, it was going to be how to create winning photos for photo contests, winning wildlife photos. So we've got a good amount of speakers set up, working on making sure we have speakers every month this year. So if somebody has a good idea for a speaker and he's at $150 or less, please let me know. And other than that, I think we'll call it a day at almost 12:45. So
Good, I
Thank
hear
you, Jeff.
that's calling. Yeah,
Good presentation today.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.